Topping today's news, 2 men shot and killed in the Camp Road community on Tuesday. An update on the Prime Minister's second day at the United Nations General Assembly, New York. The official opposition accusing the government of taking the country backwards after statistics reveal an increase in unemployment, and the chairman of the COI questioned by police over comments about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is your JCN Evening News. I'm Jarino Saunders. It's a pleasure to have you join us. Residents of the St. James Road, that's in the Camp Road area, shaken up yesterday as gunshots rang out around 3 p.m. shortly before schools were out. 3 men were shot. Police Press Liaison Officer Chief Superintendent Sharia King was on the scene and provided these details.
Masked men approached these men that was in the yard at the gathering and opened fire on these men, hitting one of those men who is in his early 20s and is presently in critical condition at the hospital. That victim was transported to hospital in private vehicle. As these masked men were leaving, they continued firing in the direction, hitting 2 other victims, fatally wounding one who is in his mid-50s and injuring another male who is in his early 70s. The male in his 70s is in stable condition at the hospital.
The 23-year-old male shot in the lower back later died in hospital, and the 54-year-old who was reportedly shot to the head died at the scene. The deaths mark the 62nd and 63rd murders on record this year. Last year this time, there were 87 murders on record. In New York, at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Prime Minister Philip Davis, who leads the Bahamas delegation that includes Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, the Minister of Social Services Miles Laroda, and the Bahamas Ambassador to the United States Wendell Jones. Prime Minister Davis, the week-long program for him will include the delivery of the Bahamas' national statement before the General Assembly that will be coming up on Saturday, September 27th. But on Tuesday, in addition to attending the general debate opening session, where U.S. President Donald Trump was the keynote speaker, the Prime Minister met with the Commonwealth Secretary General, the President of Kosovo, and the Secretary General of the Coalition of Small Island States. Prime Minister Davis also expected to have bilateral meetings with the President of Namibia, that's Namibia, and the Crown Prince of Kuwait. The meetings will provide a platform for the Bahamas to advance its priorities on climate resilience, energy reform, equitable development, and global partnerships. The Free National Movement has commented on the January 2025 Labor Force Survey. That survey was released by the Bahamas National Statistical Institute on Tuesday, and it shows that unemployment, the rate is up to 10.8%, up from the 7.2% in the previous report from the last quarter of 2024. F&M Shadow Minister of Finance, Kwesi Thompson, says the stats show that in less than 1 year, the Bahamian economy has lost some 5,571 jobs. He said it is devastating news, adding that the Bahamian economy has been put into reverse. Thompson highlighted what an F&M government would do if voted in. Among other things, they include fast-track development and cutting red tape. They will invest $500 million into small and medium-sized businesses and build a technology industry to make technology a major pillar of the economy. Charlotte Green, the national chairman for the Coalition of Independents, COI, was taken in for questioning and released on Tuesday by the Security and Intelligence Branch of the Royal Bahamas Police Force in relation to recent comments she made in regards to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs allegedly issuing large amounts of passports to foreigners that do not speak English and those who only recently arrived in the country. It is reported that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Fred Mitchell, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs made the complaint against the COI chairman. Upon her release, Ms. Green said investigators determined that the accusations against her and the statements that she made did not coincide. Further, she and the COI leader, Lincoln Bain, said a person cannot be charged with libel if they are telling the truth. The COI leader then accused the government of trying to intimidate them. Bain challenged the government to view their own files on passport approvals and release those findings to the public as it relates to the number of immigrants issued passports under the Davis administration. The COI says it will not be intimidated. And finally, in this segment, in July, the government of the Bahamas signed a framework agreement with the Chinese government for the new 200-bed specialty hospital on the New Providence Highway at a cost of $267 million. There are still some components of the deal left to be worked out, including the labor component. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Michael Dovell, is providing an update as to where those negotiations about how many Chinese and how many Bahamians will be working on that project, where those negotiations stand as of now.
Taking into consideration that all concessional loans with the Chinese Exim Bank are at 2% interest rate, there is a Chinese contractor and there is also a Chinese labor component. We are in the final stages with the discussion with the Exim Bank with all of the parameters associated with the loan itself and the labor component. That is not completed yet. I'm hoping that I would be able to complete that before the end of October.
With a contract already awarded, land clearing is expected to begin next month sometime or shortly after. However, Dr. Michael Dovell explained that those works are separate and apart from the $267 million contract that will see the Chinese fund some 73% of the project, with the government providing the remaining funding.
Very soon, we will begin to see activity at the site, because if you assess the feasibility study, you will see that land preparation was not a part for the contractor or for the Exim Bank. It was the responsibility of the Ministry of Health. And so we have gone through the procurement process to award a contract for land preparation, and that would happen shortly.
Again, the new specialty hospital will cater mainly to women and children and will feature specialized emergency intensive care services, diagnostic lab facilities, infectious disease isolation units, and a morgue designed for mass casualties. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.